Welcome to another episode of Sugar-Free Self-Care TV. Today on my Client Success series, I have a special guest here, and this is my client, Nicole. It's so exciting to see Nicole's progress in the program. She joined in our recent round of the Impulse Mastery program, and I'm so excited to have her here. So thank you, Nicole, for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Charmaine. Thank you.
Thank you. And can you tell us, before we start, do you mind introducing yourself, just telling us a little about you,
Sure.
and how you decided to join?
Yes, my name is Nicole. I am 30 years old and I live in Los Angeles, and I work as a registered nurse. Actually, fun fact, I went to school with Charmaine back in the day.
Yes.
But
Nursing school.
Nursing school. I'm not going to say how long ago. Well, I guess I already gave my age, so it's okay. But
dude, we're young, dude.
Right?
We're super young.
Super young. But yes, I just wanted to kind of give you a recap of where I was before I started working with Charmaine. I guess just growing up, one of my major things is that I was never super comfortable in the kitchen. And so throughout my college years, as then I went into an adulthood, I just never really found my groove in terms of cooking. And that kind of set the story for where I am today. Along with around like the time of 2017, I went through a really difficult event related to work. And for the first time in my life, I became an emotional eater, which is something that was very new for me. And so just throughout the years, I found myself finding more and more comfort in food, which is something that I was aware of, but I felt like I couldn't really stop. I want to say around like the end of 2018 or so, I did end up losing about 15 pounds in a month using a diet that was recommended to me. And so in that way, I had succeeded. But I think about like 2 or 3 months later, I ended up gaining that 15 back, as well as about 15 more. And I, looking back, can say I think it's because I put in the actions, but I didn't change what was behind those actions. And so my mind still was there in terms of comfort eating. And so I guess just throughout the past couple of years, especially 2020 and this year 2021, I found that I wasn't only using food to comfort the times that I was stressed and upset, but I also found it as a way to reward. So there really wasn't any distinction between when I wasn't treating myself, and I was finding that I was eating like takeout 2 to 3 times a week. I was eating like the fastest meals possible, whatever I could microwave, whatever I could throw together in a sandwich. And I saw this behavior and thought I had no self-control. And that was really discouraging for me until finally, I think it was around like mid-August, right before Charmaine's program started, that I saw a Facebook post that she put up. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to check this out. It's not going to hurt to fill out the questionnaire and see what happens. And then I started the program, and here we are.
Yay! Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, Nicole, I have to say thank you for sharing your story. Like, I really appreciate you being open with that, because I know, especially when it comes to things like eating, like emotional eating or comfort eating, or talking about your history, like people get very, very guarded around that. So I really appreciate you sharing. And I also think so many of us can relate to that. Like, I know I related to, like, I learned about stress eating because of like nursing school, the same thing, nursing school and working on the job. But what I think is also, I think something common that you shared too was like, you know, people try diets, but when they focus more on the food and the habit, like the actions, but not like the mindset change, then the permanent change doesn't come along.
Right.
Kind of like what you mentioned. So even though you lost weight before, then it kind of comes back. So, so I'm curious for you, like when you went through this program, like even though before, like you've had these behaviors for like a few years now, like what was it during this program that started, like first of all, I guess I know we're still going through the program, but what are some shifts that you've been noticing for you, that some changes that you've made like since joining, even though we're about like over 2 months in, but what shifts have you noticed?
I guess coming into it, I thought it was going to be telling me what to eat, like when to eat. And pretty much like right off the bat, we started like taking a full step back and saying like, how am I feeling about things? How am I feeling when it comes to food and my relationship to food? And I just didn't realize that there was going to be so much groundwork that was going to be behind the scenes, I guess. And so I think I took food, my conception of food, as something completely different, because before it was something that was comforting me, and now I could see it as fuel, and it's something that actually it relates to me so much more. um, and so just being way more mindful and intentional with what I put in my body, pretty much. And some changes that I've seen is that for the first time, thanks to Charmaine's help, I'm actually like way more confident in the kitchen, and I find a lot of pride and joy actually preparing my meals for the week, and sticking to that plan, and just being really a lot more self-reliant. And with that new skill came a joy, I guess, in finding that I do have self-control, and I do have the autonomy to decide what I do for myself, and how I could take care of myself. And I think I would not have realized that had I not done this program, because I think I would have just kept pursuing a lot of the food related diets instead of more of the mental, emotional components behind what we eat and how we even go about our day.
Right. Right. And I totally relate with you on the cooking part, because that was my
Yeah.
big obstacle too. Like I was like, I've never cooked at all until I was an adult. And I was like, I hate the kitchen. I was the same thing. I hate the kitchen. I just
Right.
want to buy all the things. So
Mm-hmm.
so what helped you overcome that obstacle? Like what part of the program helped you overcome that? Because that's a big shift to go like, oh, like I am not good in the kitchen. I don't want to
Right.
be here. And then suddenly preparing meals and stuff. Like what?
This is slightly embarrassing, but like when I looked at the list of foods for like month one that we're going to start out with, I realized I'm like, okay, none of these are prepackaged.
Mm-hmm.
They're not frozen. I'm going to, if I want to succeed in this program, I'm going to have to step up and just throw myself into it and just get in there. And what was really nice is on your website, you had all these modules and even some videos that went through how to prepare just simple things. And I was like, okay, these are step by step. And I remember seeing like one video was like 4 minutes long. I'm like, oh, that's great, instead of having like 30, 40 minutes long. And I just found that I didn't have to be so scared. Like you can even trial and error, and it's not going to matter. Like you can mess up and you can start over again, and it's fine. Um, and so just feeling a lot more empowered, saying these are the simple steps, and also just hearing that you had struggled with this as well was reassuring too, because I felt a little self-conscious coming into it, saying like, I'm not very good at cooking. And I don't even know if that was the case. It was more so I was too lazy to try cooking. So
Mm-hmm.
I yeah, I just realized that if I wanted to reach my goals, then I was going to have to put in the effort. And one of my biggest things was the actual cooking and meal prepping. And it
Right.
worked
And
out.
was it like when you're doing it now, is it as hard as you thought it would be, or it's a lot easier
No, it's so much
than
easier. And
you?
it's nice because I end up meal prepping for like 4 or 5 days out. And so I know in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, even if I have to spend 2 or 3 hours right now, I'm not going to have to the next 4 days. And I just throw on an audiobook or some music, put on a movie. And I actually find it's a really enjoyable time just to um, connect with the food that I'm making and think of myself ahead of time and thinking like, oh, okay, like I know I really like this chicken at work. I'm going to enjoy having it. And so it's just become so much more of a joyful thing for me.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I think that's a big shift, right? Because so many
It is.
people, especially busy women, because that's who I work with, like a lot of
Mhm.
ambitious go-getters and a big, you're definitely not alone. Like I think all of them, basically, none of them cook. Like
Right.
before meeting me, none of them cook, they all do the fast food or they go to the
Mhm.
drive-through or whatnot. And that was me too. I went to the drive-through at McDonald's almost every shift at the end of the shift. And so I think the fact that you could see as enjoyable is such a huge
Yeah, it's
step, not
huge.
like such a
Mhm.
different change, which is amazing. And I love that you said that it really isn't complicated, and it actually helps you.
Yeah.
It's like a lot easier than you thought. And
Mhm.
And then in the long run, did it help having your meals ahead of time, like to prevent you from wanting to eat all the things or?
Yes. And it helped me in terms of like with my nursing shifts, I'd come home at 8 o'clock at night. And it's like, oh yes, I could just heat up what I already cooked and I don't have to spend 30 minutes or give myself an excuse to go fast food. That was normally the case. But I was like, I have this food that I took the time to prepare for myself a few days ago. I'm going to honor myself and my work that I did back then and enjoy this right now. And it was really nice.
Oh, that's amazing. And then speaking to also, because I know you mentioned the more emotional aspects of eating, which is
Mhm.
what a lot of people come to me for, like comfort eating, um, eating for like stress eating, and also what you mentioned, like the reward eating, which I thought was so
Mhm.
interesting. Like, can you expand a little bit on like when you would want to treat yourself like for a reward, or what would that, what do you mean by that?
I think with the reward eating, it came with a sense of like, oh, okay, like I've done some good work, whether it be at work or home, I got a lot done. And it's like, you know what? I can just sit back and relax and not have to worry about cooking. Comes back to that and just say,
Right.
something sounds really good right now. I'm going to go ahead and have it. And that was also, I want to say that was new from this past year or so too. And it probably came with terms of being in pandemic. And it was something that when things started to open up again and you could get takeout, I'm like, this is such a treat. And this is something that like I've missed for a few months. And now that my favorite restaurant is offering takeout, I can go and just enjoy myself. And so I think my mind shift switched that way too. So now I had the span of eating for comfort and then eating for reward too. So it just was like I saw no escape from it.
Right. Right. And then for the comfort eating, what was one example of something you like a time you'd usually want to comfort eat?
Comfort eat well, especially coming from my workplace as a nurse, if I had a really stressful shift where things didn't go my way or something bad happened with the patient or family, just something adverse, I would instantly like start craving food. It was almost like a Pavlov trigger. I'd be like 5 o'clock at work, be like, this day has not gone well. I think I'm gonna get this for myself after work. And like I would already be scrolling through the menu in my car as I was leaving and just have it in my brain. Then that was gonna reverse my day around is to have that junk food, that fast food, whatever food in front of me as fast as possible.
And why was it that you wanted to change that behavior before joining?
I think first it came like physically because I would go to bed and I would feel so full and my stomach would be upset and I would sleep terribly.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was normal to like not feel good all the time. And then like once I started this, I was like, oh wait, you can go to sleep without a full stomach. So I just never really felt comfortable. Um, and then I realized at work too, I'd have my breakfast, but then I'd also have like a donut or a bagel in the workroom. And then I'd have lunch at like 3 o'clock and I would still be like super hungry for dinner. I'm like, how am I eating this much? I don't really understand. I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be hungry. Um, and then lastly, I think it was like maybe a week before I saw your post and I was just like sitting at home. I think I had pizza or something and watching a movie. And I think I really for some reason I just took a hard look at what I was doing and said, you know what, this is not making me feel better. In fact, I am like I feel really full and gross. And I looked at all this food. I was like, I can't believe I just ate all that. And it was something that I used to call like blackout eating starting in like 2017. I'm like, I don't think I'm not aware of what I'm doing. I am. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
just really need to evaluate um, how this is making me feel. And is it really achieving what I think it's achieving? And that was like a firm no. Um, so that was something too that really made me want to change.
I mean, that's amazing. Just that awareness in itself, because it's really hard. Like, because we
Mhm.
get that dopamine hit when we eat the sugar, and it like that pleasure in the moment, even though it's sort
Yeah.
of like this artificial pleasure, it feels comforting in the moment. So a lot of people, even though they know they feel physiologically unwell, they'll just keep wanting the pleasure and kind of cover it
Mhm.
up. So I think it's amazing you did have that awareness of like, oh, actually, no, like it's not making me feel better.
Mhm.
This isn't, I feel terrible, And
Yeah.
what was it in the impulse mastery program that helped you break those patterns? Because for a lot of people, it really is hard to stop going to the food when we feel bad, especially after a bad day of work, or if we want to reward ourselves. Like, what was it, I guess, that helped you, that you learned, that helped you sort of
Mhm.
stop those patterns? Because it can be very easy to do that sort
Yes.
of thing.
I think one tool, spoiler alert for anyone who joins the program, is the impulse loop that Charmaine will go through. And it just really goes and breaks down the thought and emotion that lead to your response. And so I was here thinking that I had no self-control and I went for something without thinking about it. But in truth, I was thinking about it, and I just was not acknowledging what that thought and emotion were behind it. And so just scaling back from that impulse and just seeing there is rationale behind it and there is a way to change it and to make it intentional, or to change it, or to disregard it altogether. And seeing that tool and just really taking responsibility for my choices made all the difference, I think, versus me saying like, oh, like I have no control over this, or I guess I'm just gonna stay this weight forever, or this is my life now. I could really look at it and say like, okay, where is that want for me to eat coming from? Why do I feel like I need that right now? And then just really looking at like, am I hungry? And I would say like 100% of the time it was no. It was just because it was something that I thought I couldn't control.
Right, right. And that's what I hear so much from women and people going through the emotional eating. Like, it feels kind of just like the food is like, I mean, I see a lot of memes on this on Instagram, but like people will just say the food just kind of accidentally goes
Right.
into their face and stuff. But
Yeah, I
it's,
had the
yeah.
blackout. I claim that like, oh, I have
Right.
no idea what I'm doing.
Right. Like, oh my God, I can't stop eating. And I get it though. I get that feeling though, because
Yeah.
when you're overwhelmed with emotion, it feels like you have no control. But I love that you said that. It's like, no, like you realize like you do have a
Mhm.
choice. And that's what we do dive into. Like that's really my mission, like to help women see that you do have a choice over your eating, because of what you're saying, like the thoughts and feelings behind it, and getting to the root. And that's how you start changing your behaviors. And ever since you started doing that, what changes have you noticed in yourself, like physically, mentally? What have you seen? How have you transformed?
Actually, in a lot of ways, I feel like mentally, I can get through the day without reaching for snacks and thinking that I need to have something. And I actually find that, like, mentally, I'm a lot more clear. I feel like I have a lot more focus and initiative to get things done. Emotionally wise, now that I have a better concept of my thoughts, I feel like I am at least more knowledgeable of my emotions. I won't say that I'm in control of them. I don't know if anyone could claim that, but at least like I'm a lot more emotionally in tune with myself. And that has just changed the way that I carry myself from day to day too. And it just makes me feel a lot more emotionally healthy. And I feel like it's improved a lot of my relationships. Um, and here I was thinking that we just went into like food wise, but actually like stepping back, I'm like, okay, there's like some of my biggest wins are mentally and emotionally. And that's something that I'm really grateful to have a better grasp of. And I'm still learning and growing in that area too. And but I feel like I have seen so much progress and I can see where I can make so much more. So it's a really exciting thing versus being daunting. And physically, I actually, as of today, I've lost 31 pounds since
Ah,
starting. I know.
oh, that's amazing.
Thank you. And it was a goal that I had in the beginning, but I think, I don't know if I like, I guess there was some part of me that thought maybe I could actually do it. I was like, okay, I knew where my goal weight was, and it was about 30 pounds from where I started. And so I set that and I was like, we'll see if I get like 15, 20, it is what it is. And so as it like kept going, I was like, oh wait, this is actually happening. Um, and I had never bought new clothes when I gained weight. And so now I'm just like, oh, I could wear all my old clothes again. And I feel so much more comfortable and I can carry myself with more confidence. And just in general, like I'm not going to bed feeling full and my stomach upset anymore, which is really nice.
Oh, that's amazing.
A win.
I bet that sounds so
Mhm.
uncomfortable.
Yes. And yeah, just in general, I just feel a lot healthier in like every aspect.
Right. And I love that you also mentioned not just, I mean, the 31 pounds is huge, by the way. I just remembered when
I
you set
know.
that goal and you started and you're just like so not sure, like you were just so
Hmm.
uncertain. And I remembered like you guys, she just transformed like so amazing. Like in the beginning, she had so
Thank
many
you.
doubts. But what I loved about Nicole, you guys, is that she just kept going. Like one of our
Yeah.
steps that I teach in the program is about persisting and how do you persist through any obstacle. And Nicole's such a beautiful example of that, of like, even though she had some
Mhm.
physical issues in the beginning, and even though she had some doubts and didn't like, she wasn't confident the whole way, but she still committed and she
Mhm.
stayed with it. And then now she was able to see like the goal that she thought was impossible before. So I think that was just amazing to see your transformation. I just
Thank you.
so wanted to commend you. And also, like, has it like with, because I know really when you make these changes, it does affect, like what you said, every aspect of your life,
Mhm.
like how you think about yourself, how you carry yourself with confidence. Has that translated in other areas, like at work, like how you show up, or maybe your relationships, or have you noticed changes in that way?
I have. I feel like I'm a lot more intentional with my actions, and I'm a lot less reactive. So if something happens that frustrates me or upsets me, I'm able to just kind of take a step back. We're like, all right, let me acknowledge this and let me see how I can move forward from it. And I feel like I'm a lot more cognizant of my response instead of having like an initial knee jerk reaction. I'm able to really think through. I'm still improving. I have not unlocked the secret of being perfectly calm, cool, and collected, but I'm on my way there. Um, and with relationships too, I feel like I'm a lot more present and just a lot more aware of their needs as well as honoring my own too. And I feel very comfortable with my friends and family and just sharing this part of my life with them, and yeah, just having them support me and encourage me along the way.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. And I love that your relationships have improved. Not like when you take care of yourself, I love that it sort of affects the other
Hmm.
areas. And like it's
Absolutely.
so true. Like when you put your self-care first, it does affect how you care for others in a deeper way. And so when you love yourself, it's just amazing how differently you show up in the presence of others. Like you're less, like you're more present, you're not so
Hmm.
reactive. And I love that you were able to experience that,
Me too.
and create that for yourself, I should say. Like I love that you created that for yourself. So I was curious, what made the impulse mastery program different than maybe other weight loss programs or diets that you've tried?
I think especially this one of the biggest draw was the community that was built into this program itself. Because before, when I've gone about trying to restart on a Monday or even just doing that initial diet, I felt alone in doing it, and I felt like, okay, this is me. I gotta focus. Like nobody else knows what I'm going through, but I'm just gonna power through and hope it works, and it didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
starting off
I've
with
been
this,
there.
yeah, with this program, instantly, like Charmaine checked in before we even started and established goals with each of us. And I think even before we officially started, we had a group meeting on Zoom with all the other women, and it was just so comforting to um, see their faces and hear their stories too, and know that they were going through the same thing that I was going through. And it just was very encouraging to know that if I had a struggle one day, I could share it with them, or if they had a struggle too, we could share, or even a win, like something that we were excited about. And it just had that nice group feel to it. And we also had at the beginning of the program too our retreat, and that was just a great way to start off, just centering like our minds and bodies versus having it like hit the ground running and like this is what we need to start doing. It was like, all right, let us ease into first even just knowing what self-care is, and then we can proceed with the rest of the program. And we're a lot more grounded in ourselves to begin. um, and something else that really helped, I really liked the weekly check-ins with everybody, but in the meantime, there were these really helpful modules that were online that we could go through, and they aren't just one and done. Like you could keep revisiting them even after the program ends, which is really helpful. And having those as a resource and just really learning from them as well. And they focused on different topics, and then us discussing that every week was really helpful.
Yeah, awesome. And I had so much fun in the retreat. I'm like the same. I'm
I
like,
know. Me too.
I wanted to help like make it so you guys know each other and then have that grounding before you
Mhm.
start. Cause yeah, it's so true
Right.
to get yourself set. It's kind of like nursing. It's like if any of you guys are nurses, it's like if you just start the shift and you're just like constantly putting out the fires, you can't really, if
Mhm.
you don't set an intention, you're not really going, like you could get through the day, but you're not really going to grow because you're not really having an intention. So I love that in the beginning. It's so important for any goal that any of you have, like anyone
Mhm.
watching, you always have to have that intention and know where you want to go before you just hit the ground running. Because that's where a lot of women who are ambitious also kind of make a mistake of like, oh, let's just go, go, go. But they don't
Right.
really have the plan or the goal. It's kind of all over the place. So I love that you
Mhm.
mentioned that. Um, and what advice would you give to someone who might be like on the fence about joining, like someone who's kind of like, oh, maybe Nicole's just like, she's just got it together and I don't, like, what would you say to that person?
I remember, I can't remember if you said it at the beginning of the program or if it was like the first time we met. You had this phrase, it was like bet on yourself. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like I've never heard that before. Um, and just really taking that mindset. I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna start this, like then I'm gonna put my all into it. I'm not sure if I can really achieve my goals, but I will tell you that starting at the program, I if I really like took a hard look at it, I set these goals, but I wasn't really sure I could actually do it until Charmaine said like bet on yourself. And I was like, okay, well, let's see what I can do. Can I do this hard thing? um and you really can, and it is, you're set. If you put in what you want to put in, you are set up for success. And I just really encourage you to take the time and focus on yourself, and you'll see, like we were discussing earlier, your life is going to benefit in so many other ways, and you're going to feel very supported and encouraged in the program with these other individuals that are going through it, and Charmaine, who has gone through it herself too. And yeah, if you give it your all, it will pay off.
Yes, and it's so important. It's like it's so true, and I think that's an important piece to mention that when you go into a program, or if you do sign up with a coach, like ultimately at the end of the day, what you put in is what you get out of it. Like because as a coach, like I can't make someone do something, but when you go in and you just practice that commitment muscle and just really practice like being open
Mhm.
and receptive to the learning and receptive to the new skills, and you do that work. Like Nicole did such a beautiful job. Like you guys, she showed up. Like she showed up to most calls. Like if she couldn't make it, she let me know. She did all the homework. She got coaching. Like she showed up in the Facebook group. Like you guys, like it is no coincidence that Nicole is successful because
Thank
she
you.
put in that effort and she
Yeah.
put in that work. And I just have to commend that because it doesn't come to everyone. Like it really comes when you have the intention of going into a program and putting in the work
Mhm.
to do that. So and Nicole really did that. So that's
Thank you.
amazing. So
I
I
tried.
did want to applaud her for that. And do you see the things you learn? Like, do you see it as sustainable, like something you could do in the long term?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not something that's like just one and done where I finish like, okay, that's the end. Like now going into the holidays, I'm just gonna let it see how it goes, and I can restart in
Right.
January. It's like, no, I want to keep this momentum. Like I feel really good and I'm still seeing progress. And so I just really want to keep honoring the commitment that I made to myself in August and say, you know what, this is doable, this is sustainable. Um, and something that was really helpful is like near the end of the program, we especially started addressing the persist aspect, and just learning how to carry on if we have some setbacks or any issues going forward, and what we can do to maintain our progress and continue to progress.
Right. Right. And that's, I think, the element that a lot of programs don't necessarily focus on. It's just how do you continue persisting, even
Mhm.
because you've had those days too. I've had those days where like we might like overeat, like we go to a
Right.
buffet and we just kind of we're like, oh, it's okay, one bite won't hurt, and it leads to you eating everything at the buffet. And like we've all
Mhm.
had those moments. Like, how do you keep wanting to go on after that? Like that's what I help you learn, because if you don't know how to recuperate from a fail or a mistake, you're not going to want to continue. And Nicole was just that perfect example of that, of like someone who
Thank you.
did come across obstacles and she was willing to get coached and do the work to keep persisting and put the mistake behind her, like not let it get too personal, but she was, although it hurt in the moment, like she's willing to keep moving forward from that. So I think that was just an awesome example of how you were able to persist in that moment. So in all those moments, so I really congratulate you on that. And I really thank you for sharing your story and showing all these women what's possible when you just bet on yourself and you really just allow yourself to get the help you need and the support you need. And you go all in, even if you're not so sure, like you're proof of what happens when you do bet on yourself and you are interested in reaching your goals and you go for it. So thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing.
Thank you for having me. I feel so honored that you think I could be helpful. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, 100%. And, and I just want to congratulate you again on the 31 pounds. I think it's just so awesome. Like I still remember in the beginning how you just weren't sure if you could lose it. And it's just so cool to come to this moment and you're like, I did it. And
I know.
So congratulations. And for
you.
anyone else who's interested in learning exactly what Nicole went through, like the exact steps she took, the next round of my program is going to come up in a few months. So if you want to apply, you could click the link in the caption below, or you can leave a comment if you have any questions. But again, thank you, Nicole, for showing up and for being here. And again, congratulations on all your successes.
I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time on Sugar Free Self Care TV. Take care. Bye.